Opening, distorted whispers, the sound of a winter wind howling through a desolate valley. A slow, ominous heartbeat pulses beneath the words. 4 women, vanished. No footprints in the snow. No signs of struggle. Just gone. Their husband stood before the elders of the settlement, his face hollow, his voice steady. They left, he said. They chose to go east. But the snow was 3 feet deep. The passes were closed. No one could have survived that journey. And yet, the beds were empty. The doors unbroken. The truth? It was buried for 70 years, until the ground gave up its secrets, and the church had to face what it had tried so hard to forget. Beat. The heartbeat stops. Silence. This is the story of Ezekiel Whitmore and his 4 wives, Sarah, Rebecca, Mary, and Ruth. A story of faith twisted into madness, of devotion turned to horror. A story the Mormon Church sealed in its archives, until the earth itself refused to keep it hidden. Sound of a shovel striking frozen ground. A gasp. When the workers found them in 1920, the women's belongings were perfectly preserved, folded, arranged, as if waiting. But the bodies were never found, because what Whitmore did to them wasn't just murder. It was a sacrament, fades to a whisper. And now, you know enough to turn back, but you won't, because the truth is a poison. Once it's in your blood, there's no antidote. The promised land of blood, a distant hymn, sung by a lone trembling voice. Then silence. Utah Territory, 1847, a land of prophets and paranoia. Brigham Young had led his people into the wilderness to escape persecution, but the price of Zion was paid in suffering. The winters were brutal, the ground was hard, and the doctrine, it was evolving. Plural marriage wasn't just allowed, it was divine law. A man's glory in heaven depended on the size of his household. But Ezekiel Whitmore didn't just collect wives like trophies. He bound them to something darker, a belief that salvation required more than obedience. It required blood. Sound of a knife being sharpened, slow, methodical. Sarah, his first wife, was barren. In Mormon theology, that made her incomplete. Rebecca, the intellectual, questioned too much. Mary, pregnant and vulnerable. Ruth, barely more than a child. 4 women, isolated in a cabin 8 miles from the nearest soul. And then visions started. Whitmore claimed God spoke to him, not in whispers, in commands. Prove your faith, the voice said. Sacrifice what you love most. Sound, a woman's voice, trembling. We must all make the ultimate sacrifice. That's what Rebecca wrote in her journal. The last words before the snow swallowed them all. The first lie, a door creaking open, wind howling. January 1848, Ezekiel staggers into the settlement, gaunt, wild-eyed. Sarah's gone, he tells the bishop, called east to tend her sister. But the bishop knows Sarah had no sister. Then Rebecca left, Whitmore insists weeks later. A teaching mission. Sound, pen scratching on paper, the bishop's private journal. Brother Whitmore speaks of revelations, but I fear he conceals something earthly and terrible. When the bishop and his men finally reach the cabin, they find Whitmore alone. The hearth is cold, the beds are stripped, and behind the house, fresh earth, disturbed in winter. Frozen ground doesn't dig itself. Root cellar, Whitmore says. But the bishop sees the truth in his eyes, a muffled sob beneath the floorboards. One of the men hears it, women weeping. Whitmore smiles. The wind plays tricks, but the wind doesn't whisper names. The unholy covenant. Sound fire crackling, pages turning. The bishop finds Whitmore's journals. The entries start as scripture. Then they twist. The principle of ultimate consecration. The offering of innocence, the sealing power of shed blood. A ritual chant, low and guttural. Whitmore didn't snap. He didn't break. He ascended into a heresy so dark, even the church buried it. He believed if he sacrificed his family, they'd rule beside him in the celestial kingdom. Not as victims, as queens. A shovel strikes bone. When the bishop digs, he finds fragments, a wedding ring, a scrap of dress, but no bodies. Because Whitmore didn't just bury them, he sent them to God, a hymn distorted. Then silence. The awakening. Sound a heartbeat returns, louder. This is where you decide. Do you keep watching, or do you walk away? If you're still here, it's too late. The truth has its hooks in you. So let me ask, what's more dangerous, a madman or a man who believes God commands his madness? Pause, then softly. Comment blood covenant twice below. Once to prove you're listening, twice to prove you understand. The algorithm is watching. So is something else. The 1920 revelation. Sound steam machinery, the grind of progress. 70 years later, workers break ground on a new meetinghouse. Their shovels strike stone. A hidden chamber. Inside, 4 dresses, neatly folded, 4 sets of identification. 4 farewell letters. We go willingly to the altar, Sarah writes. The knife is holy, Rebecca adds. Mary's letter is stained with tears. My child will be born in heaven. Ruth's is the shortest. Forgive me, I'm afraid. A child's laugh, distant. Then gone. The church collects the evidence, burns the letters, but some truths, they don't stay buried. The unanswered question, a whisper too close. Did they go willingly? The letters say yes, but fear can make martyrs of us all. Or did Whitmore break them first? The journals suggest rituals, marks on the wrists, synchronized movements, a household not just obedient, but entranced, a knife dragging across flesh. The church declared Whitmore insane. But what if he wasn't? What if he was right? The legacy. Sound a modern recording, a hiker's breath, panicked. Even now, travelers near Mill Creek report things. Women in old-fashioned dresses, standing in snow that isn't there. Voices singing hymns, in unison. A man's shadow watching from the trees. The church denies it, but you've seen enough to know. Denial is just another kind of burial. The choice. Sound a heartbeat, your heartbeat. This isn't just history, it's a warning. Faith can save, or it can devour. Isolation can purify, or it can rot the mind. And devotion? A knife finding its sheath, the sharpest blade of all. The truth you can't unknow. Sound wind, then silence. Whitmore vanished. The whys were erased. The church moved on. But the ground remembers. So do they. 4 whispers overlapping. Find us. Beat, then black screen. You heard the story now. That means you're part of it. So tell me, do you believe in blood covenants? End.